We're talking about communications a little bit now.
Yeah, some communication stuff. I mentioned before that the American Forest Foundation, in conjunction with the Society of American Foresters through a grant from the USDA Forest Service, put together a workshop called Expand Your Base. Well, this is a really super condensed version of that, and if you're interested, next time I'm in Colorado, I would love to be able to put on the full 4-hour workshop for you, and we'll see what we can do about that. But in the meantime, here's the appetizer version of it, okay? So a lot of the information that we use and I'm going to be talking about here today was developed for the National Woodland Owner Survey. The NWOS, Lord knows you can't have a government function without an acronym to it, is a portion of USDA Forest Service FIA. The Forest Inventory and Analysis, the same people that I used to work for years ago, and you go out in the woods and you measure the trees. Well, that's who does this, and they mail it out to millions of or thousands of landowners to find out who they are, what interests them, why do they own the land, all this good stuff. Then they take that information, and of course they fold, spin, and mutilate it, and compile it into some information that is readily available. You can actually go on their website and pull it and manipulate it any way you want. Again, you know, to make whatever thing. Conclusions you want to make, because let's face it, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. But it is really useful, and you can make things help us understand who the forest landowners are, why they own the land, and how we can help them. Okay? And it's all about this right here. It's about reaching others. I hope that some of the information that we're going to touch on here is new to you. Some of it may surprise you, but a lot of it, you're going to back of your head go, oh yeah, that makes sense. I kind of knew it, but I wasn't thinking about it in that way. So what we really hope to do through this workshop is kind of shift the attitudes, because forestry is less about forests and is more about working with the people that have the forests, okay? And ultimately, at the end of the workshop, we want each of the participants to pick 2 or 3 things that they can do differently in their approach going forward. So, first topics that we touch on are these. Who are the landowners? You know, the whole program is broken down into who are these landowners, how can we reach and engage them, and what can we provide that they want. Well, first, who are they? There you go, they're everybody. Rural, people that live in the urban areas but own property and out in the woods, retirees, farmers, conscientious environmentalists, I love that one, because we've seen that, sportsmen, and the rest of us right down here, overworked professionals. That's who they are. This is brand new information. We just got this from Brett Butler at the National Woodland Owner Survey, and these are exactly who owns the forests of the United States, the family forests, okay? And by that we mean privately owned, 10 to 10,000 acres, non-industrial, non-corporate, okay? 282 million acres, an increase of 12% in the ownerships from the 2006 study in 5 years. The ownerships themselves have increased 7%, which means, and then the size has increased as well. These are all preliminary results. He has to finish going through them in order to make sure they're true. But those are the numbers, and who they are and what they own is changing. And what they look like are changing too. They're getting older. 40% are 65 or older. That's up 5%. It's not necessarily that they're less male, but that's the primary decision maker. When I was a procurement forester, I may have been buying the timber from the man, but I had to sell the job to his wife. That was for darn sure. Mostly white, at least half of them have a college degree. So at least they have some understanding that they don't know what they don't know for the most part. And a huge increase, 28% of them make $100,000 or more. So hopefully they're coming to a better understanding of their forest land as an investment and something that needs to be tended to. Here we go. So why do they own the land? Those right there are the top 5 reasons. Anybody see timber production on that list? Anybody care to take a guess where timber production falls on that list? Well, we usually, by the time we get down to timber production, that's usually when we stop asking questions. But it makes the list of the top 15. So that tells you what? That it's 15th, that's right. So. The top 5 reasons haven't changed all that much, but their priority has between the 2006 and the 2011 surveys. Still, the number one they have the land is because they love it. It's just beautiful to them. They want to do scenery. Maybe it's the 20 acres off the back when they bought the house. Okay? But they don't think about it very much. No, actually, there you go. Part of the home may be part of it as well. The privacy. Again, these are preliminary numbers, but we're pretty confident in their accuracy. So, people aren't owning land for timber value, so as foresters, we got to stop looking at them owning their land for the timber value. We got to look at all the other reasons they own it, and then figure out how we can manipulate the ecosystem to meet those goals. And how we communicate to them how we do that is a bigger challenge for us. Management plan on what is it, less than a third of the acres and less than 10% of the ownerships. So there's a lot of opportunities out there to get more management plans in place. Unfortunately, even when they have management plans, they're not always implemented. And anybody who's done tree farm inspections has seen that, where you go in and it's been 8-10 years since you've been on the ground. And when they do eventually dig out their management plan and blow the dust off of it, they may be doing it, but it's not necessarily being documented. And that's some of what's being shown in tree farm with our audits as well. And the auditors have said repeatedly, we are doing tremendous and outstanding work on the ground. We're just not very good at paperwork. So how are we doing at communications? We're not doing that great at the paperwork end of it. Well, we're doing a little bit better in some aspects. If you look again, cost share, 75% are familiar with it. That's up from 50%. Green certification, I'm sorry, this is the ownerships in the acres. My apologies, it's not the 2011-2006 figures. So half of the property and 2/3 of the property, 3/4 of the property owners are aware that there are farm bill programs out there. EQIP, WIP, other state and local cost share programs.
The other way around and say they're not familiar.
Oh, you're right. My apologies. These numbers are so brand new, I really haven't worked with them all that much. So you're right. Only 1/4 of the owners are familiar with the programs that are out there and available. And you're right, because if it was 3/4 of them knew it was out there and available, and 10% of those were contacting their legislators, I bet you we would have gotten the farm bill through the House. Okay, then you're right. Let's look at it this way. Only 18% are familiar at all with green certification. Tree Farm is a green certification program. It is internationally recognized. We do have third-party audit certification. We have our standards of sustainability, but only 18% of the landowners are even aware that we exist. Most people aren't even familiar with their tax programs on the state level. They certainly aren't familiar with easements. So there's a lot of opportunities for improvements and to better communicate what's out there and how we can keep our forests as forests and keep them healthy. Now, one of the things that we do, we've worked with Brett Butler again, to break the landowners into 4 what we're calling attitudinal segments, okay? How do they think about their land? What do they do with it? And just to make it easy, and it took me a few times before I realized that the abbreviations are already there, we've broken it down into given little personalities, like Wendy and Ralph, who were Woodland retreat owners, okay? They probably own a property someplace else, but their woodland property is their retreat where they go. You've got Walter Landis, who's a guy who actually gets out there and works the land and does his stuff, and this is his hobby. He doesn't go golfing. He buys every piece of equipment he can and goes out and works on the land. You got Samuel Ingus, who's a supplemental income. He's actually worked out there managing the property, and that's how he's making his living. It's unbelievable. I was just in Oregon last week, and the number of people out there. So what do? I manage my tree farm. That's my career. That's my job. So pretty incredible if they can do that, but you can. And then you've got Uncle Owen. He's uninvolved. For the most part, I've run into this guy a lot when I was doing procurement, and it was, a farmer, and that back hill over there, he's not thinking about it at all. Well, that's what I need a tractor, then I'll think about it and go cut the trees off of it. So these are some of the generalizations of the attitudinal segments of these landowners. And if you look at it, this is the percentage, this is the pie chart. I know it's getting near lunch, supper time, but stick with me when I go listen past pie and go to chart. So you got about a third of the landowners are the woodland retreat owners, and a quarter, a fifth to a quarter of the other two. Okay? And this kind of makes sense. You guys work with landowners as much as I do, or you are landowners and you know your neighbors. Does this make sense to you? Sound about right? Okay, see, heads nodding, luckily eyes are open. It's a good thing when eyes are open and the heads are nodding. It's when the eyes are closed and the heads are nodding that I get worried here. This is where we're taking it. Okay? So, we've got, I'm going to back up on this thing. Okay. So you've got these attitudinal segments. Well, we're going to take that to the next step. And that is, how are we going to analyze them into prime prospects? First, you've got the model owners. Quite honestly, these are your tree farmers. Okay? These are the people who are out there doing it right, everything they can, just fully bought into it. You've got the prime prospects. And these are the landowners who have characteristics that they want to do the right thing, but they don't necessarily have the tools. But honestly, this is the audience that we're trying to hit with my land plan. These people who just need a nudge, some information, whether it's from a forester or a colleague, a fellow landowner who has taken those steps, somebody to mentor them and push them a little bit and let them go at their own pace. These are the people who we really need to reach, who we're trying to reach. The opportunists, well, those are pretty much the guys where if it's going to benefit them, they're going to do it. But you got to prove it to them, okay? And it'll take a bit. And then quite honestly, there's the write-offs. And I'm not opposed to saying that you're just not going to reach some people. You can't do everything, be everything to everybody, and if you are, you're going to be nothing to nobody. So this is who we're going to help you concentrate on, and this really is our prime audience, the prime prospects. If you go to the website, what is it, engaginglandowners.org, you can actually pull all the information I gave you for Colorado. You can do it for the Rocky Mountain portion, you can do it for the West region, and you can do it specifically for Colorado to see how many you have that are the woodland retreat owners, how many you have that are prime prospects, how many woodland retreat owners you have that are prime prospects, how old they are, and how long they've had their property. So you can really start to pull this data together and do a lot of micro-targeting. Rather than casting a wide net and letting a lot of people through, you're really micro-targeting and you're reaching out and returning the right message for the right people. So, that's who they are. Next comes the tougher part. So how do we reach them? How do we engage them? How do we reach them, and how do we get them to talk to us once we find out where they are? So we got to understand who we're really communicating to. It's about practical and effective ways to meet them where they are, and that where they are looks differently depending on your point of view. Okay? You need to tailor your language to see it through the other person's eyes. Jargon-free. You've got to be jargon-free. So, where do landowners get their information? There you go, top to bottom. Newspapers rank very high, particularly in rural areas, because, well, I live in a really small town, and there are 4 villages nearby, and we all share one weekly paper, and everybody has to pay attention to that weekly paper because you got to know the best and most recent gossip. So newspapers are great for getting the word out. And at the American Forest Foundation, the American Tree Farm System, one of the great tools we have available to you are fill in the blank, ready to go press releases. All you got to do is fill in your name, who you are, where the tree farmer is, get a picture of them. The local weekly newspapers just gobble this stuff up. It's a great opportunity to get out there, get the word out there, and get people to start thinking a little bit differently. Hey, this looks interesting. I wonder if I can do this. So this is according to their attitudinal segments, again, this is the preferred method for receiving forest management information. I got good news for you, folks. As foresters, the landowners really want to listen to us. I kind of got some bad news for you, folks. As communicators, we foresters are pretty lousy at it. It's not necessarily all our fault. We didn't learn it. I took dendrology, I took ecology, I can tell you where a tree grows and why and how. I just can't communicate that to you very well. I can't give you the emotional attachment that a landowner has to the property. So, what we need to do, what this workshop is about, and what will help draw out of you and give you tools for, if we do the full 4-hour workshop, which I really want to, is how to take what we've got up here, filter it through our heart, through the emotion, and put it in the landowner's ears in a way that they're going to accept it. So, issues of importance. So what's important to the landowner? Why are they out there? There's specific features, which are always, always, always going to be there, okay? For my wife, her recollection of her father's 40 acres of the spring peepers, the frogs. And when she hears those peepers in the spring, no matter where we are, that's what she's thinking of. She has that emotional tie to that particular place, okay? And if as a forestry professional and a land manager, I go in there and we do something to change the landscape so dramatically that those peepers aren't there, I don't care if silvicultural is the right thing to do. I just ruin that forest for her. So that's what we need to look at. What specific features are important to them? They want to inherit it and pass it on. And if they do want to pass it on, are they engaging the next generation to ensure that they're going to be somebody there to pass it on to? When you're talking with the landowners, or as a landowner, if you're communicating with the forester, be sure to put out there what it is that's the truth that's really important to you. My pond, my hiking trail, those sorts of things. Place attachment, place reward. Very important. So, okay. And again, there are financial rewards involved. Probably not going to do it if you can't afford to do it. So if there's a way to do it, usually, my experience when I was doing procurement as well as a consultant is that I understand, I know what you want to do with your property, and I have great news for you. We can do a timber sale to meet your goals and objectives and still put some money in your pocket and pay for getting it done. Okay? And that's a real big difference than saying, there's a buck to be made out there. Anybody can say there's a buck to be made out there. Our job is to think it through better. Okay? One of the ways we need to think it through better is to use words that resonate. When they did the National Woodland Owners Survey, they would ask people about their forest. And people would say, well, I don't have a forest. Forests are big and way out west. Nobody had a forest. They asked millions of people. Nobody had a forest. You know what they had? They had trees. They had their woodlot. In Oregon, they call them tree farms. Nobody had a forest. The government owns the forests. Well, that's one of the things we got to pay attention to and start to think about. So use the words that make sense locally. And words do matter. They matter big time. See a couple people out there that says tree farm on it, right? On my shirt, it says family forest. There's a big difference there. And do you know why that difference was made? Because tree farm doesn't resonate with people that we really needed to resonate with, particularly on Capitol Hill. They can't picture a tree farm. They picture some industrial thing going on. But when you say family forest, that really draws it out of them. And it really resonates a lot too with a lot of our tree farmers, because it's not just they that own it, it's their whole family, whether they inherited it from their parents or they're passing it on down to the next generation. It is a family forest. It is a place. So those words matter. For the most part, we in this room understand the difference between preservation and stewardship. Most people don't make that distinction. They think that preservation and not doing anything is the best thing to do and how you keep the forest healthy. I just drove through Rocky Mountain National Park, and I can guarantee you that doing nothing at all is not the best way to keep the forest or a woodlot or your trees happy and healthy. So, yes, sir.
Are you gonna have signs with the family forest on?
We have them available when you have.
Because my tree farm sign gets shot up.
Okay.
People don't like that term.
All right then. Here's what you go on the American Tree Farm website, treefarmsystem.org, and you can order a sign directly from Voss Signs that says Certified Family Forest. And we'll still have the 4 W's of wood, water, wildlife, and recreation right on there for you.
Yeah, that's
So.
good.
There you go. They don't differentiate conservation and preservation. A lot of stuff we throw around, stewardship, sustainable management, not part of their regular lexicon. So what do? Okay, you stop, you think, we work with it. And this is part of what we do when we have the full class, is work through what are some of the terms that we can use, what are the terms we can't use, do some role playing. We have fun with it, okay? Doing a condensed version here, but you want to make sure you hit key issues. Hit what's important to them. Stress options. You want to really get somebody's back up, tell them you need to do this, you want to do this. Yeah. No, best thing would be, well, you can do a couple of things. You know, it's like give them options. I have a 5-year-old at home. I give him options all the time. Do you want to eat your peas or do you want to go to bed now? I'm giving him options. So, and use their words back at them, kind of a verbal jujitsu. So if they tell you something is important, make sure you include that terminology and those words back to them, because they're going to hear that and that's going to resonate with them and that's what's going to stick with them. So use their words. You don't want to be preachy. Oh, well, you know, for the good of all humanity. That's way beyond their sphere of influence and what they can do. And going global is the same thing. My 12 acres is not going to save the world or crash it, but it's going to make all the world of difference to me. So make sure you do that with them. In choosing the right language starts with asking the right questions. Before we can use the words that resonate with them, we have to get those words out of them. So you know, when you're the reason we give you the information before and we touch base on it, like the Working the Land and the Woodland Retreat and those people, is that in the full workshop, as you're asking the questions, we'll give you a lot of more breakdown on those, and you can start thinking in the back of your mind, okay, which attitudinal segment are they? And then figure out beyond that, are they your prime prospects, or are they some write-off that you're just not going to be able to waste your time with? So we'll help you work through a lot of that. There is no defined playbook as you're going through this. It's all improvisation, doing it on the fly, and being able to keep it in your head. So Clint Eastwood said, and what was it? It was Heartbreak Ridge. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. So that's what we're looking to help you with. So when you're improving your communications, targeting effort works because it pushes you to understand the people you're trying to reach and work with. Recognize the differences in the landowners, their love of the land, and why they have it. There's a carrying cost to having the property. They're reinvesting in that every year. Why? And if you can help them enhance whatever it is that reason that they got it in the first place and why they're paying that carrying cost, then you're really going to help them and build a relationship so that going forward, it'll improve their quality. And, quite honestly, I was a consultant. I got to make a living too. So, otherwise, you know, Mike's in the other room now, but Mike's got targets he needs to reach, so that Mike keeps him on the staff here. So he's got to move it along and make sure that he uses those words as well. So, lead with 1 or 2 points. Once you figure out what it is that they're working with, lead with those. Again, that verbal jujitsu, the jargon. Kind of goes back to, again, the forest. Nobody owns a forest. They all have trees. They all have woodlots. Once you start talking technical, they really tend to shut off the landowners because they don't feel that you're engaging them. It's kind of the preachy stuff. We've got a lot more tools and information. Talked about them before. My land plan. There's the bookmarks over here. If you want more information on that, I'd be more than happy to talk to you at length about that. Talked earlier about the tools we have at treefarmsystem.org. And again, a lot of the information that we present in the workshop is pulled from the engaginglandowners.org website from the USDA Forest Service. So, if you didn't get a chance to look at it before, this is what my land plan looks like. This is part of the home page. The great thing is I've had a lot of people say, well, I don't know how to use a computer. Well, if you can click over here and hit play, it will tell you how to work through the whole thing. We've tried to make this as user-friendly as possible, and trust me, if I can work my way through it, just about anybody can. This is where you would go for the engaginglandowners.org and really be able to pull a lot of this information out. And we'll give you the tools and tell you how to do that in the long version of the workshop. So, again, if you want to reach the landowners, you want to engage them successfully, you're going to connect through common values. Okay? I've shared some stories with you about my wife and her family's property, and you can relate to that. Well, that's how we're going to engage each other. When I'm talking with a landowner, I'm going to adapt my communications. I'm not going to dumb down what I say. I'm going to present it to them in a way they can understand it. There's a big difference. And people are smart. They know when you're talking down to them. And then you can incorporate a lot of these communications approaches, refine your packages or services. We walk through one of the things that, because of time constraints, we couldn't include here. It's really pretty amusing to look at are some of the websites that I've pulled up from foresters. Some that work very, very well in communicating who they are and what they do, and some of them where I've been in the business for 25 years and I don't know what the heck they're doing looking at their website. So they're not doing a very good job of communications. So, finally, I said this before, forestry is not about the trees, it's about the people. Forest management, I should say, is not about the trees, it's about the people. Forestry is about the trees. There, see, that's all those communications things. Want to expand your base, whether it's your business or the amount of people you reach out to as a public service, you got to tailor your message to them. No sense in casting a wide net and catching nobody. Integrate communications approaches, refine packages and services. What do they need? What do they want? What's going to work best for them? And you can do this a lot of times by looking back and taking those attitudinal segments and creating a marketing approach based on that. So, constantly doing research. You saw those numbers were updated. Brett Butler's the one I normally work with and talk to a lot. Mary Tyrell is the other person at Yale who do a lot of the interpretation on this. So. I promised you I'd have you done by 5 o'clock in the cookout, didn't I?